online webinar. The online education group has been excited to plan this session with David. So let me just say a few things about David outside of his work with the American Association of Law Libraries and the National Indian Law Library in Colorado, because he'll be talking about that. David has his BS in music education. He's a trumpet player from Appalachian State in North Carolina. He has his MLS from Simmons in the Boston area. He also has a certificate in sustainability management from the University of Colorado. And he's a trail runner. He's run 70 runs longer than marathon length. That's impressive in high altitude Colorado, I guess. And he also loves to cross-country ski. So that's a little background for you on David. And so let's go ahead and hear what he's doing with the American Association for Law Libraries and his work at the National Indian Law Library. Thanks.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And welcome. I'm coming to you from Boulder, Colorado. A beautiful day here too. And just wanted to give you all an update on what American Association of Law Libraries, or AALL, has been up to recently. I've been involved in sustainability issues for a while, and I want to thank AALL for inviting me to speak. I hope this will open up some opportunities for conversations with AALL, kind of formally or informally, and with other members. So it's great to be part of this new network. Okay. So what I'd like to do is to use like a timeline to talk about the different projects that I've been involved with through AALL. Well, it looks like my slide went backwards without me knowing it. But so I will kind of start with 2009, and I'll bring you up to where we are currently. And I hope to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. Back in 2009, I was involved in organizing a conference program for the AALL annual meeting. It was called 80/2050 Challenge, what you can do to reduce your organization's impact on climate change. And interestingly enough, 2009 was a while ago, but the 80/2050, which means reducing greenhouse gases by 80% by 2050 to avoid most catastrophic climate change. That's still in effect today, so that was actually a very good kind of scientific bar set back several years ago. After we had this program, the year after, AALL asked me if I would be interested in writing a column for our magazine that we publish called Spectrum. It comes out about 10 times a year, and I wrote mostly one-page columns that I thought would be of interest to the membership related to sustainability, their libraries, and the activities of AALL. So you can see I put some headlines of a few articles below here. One was about annual meeting sustainability efforts. I proposed some ideas that could be considered for us to be progressive in that area. And also I wrote an article about a solar heater project that we were involved in, which I'll discuss in a minute. In 2012, I was able to help form a task force on environmental sustainability. And this was part of a project of a special interest section. AALL has what they call special interest sections, which deal with topic areas that people, librarians, have a focus in. It might be related to private law librarians. It might be related to forming digital collections. The one that I teamed up with, the special interest section, is one on social responsibilities, which I thought was really forward-thinking and pretty cool. And some of the things that they dealt with in the social responsibilities special interest section were things like gay and lesbian issues, gender, serving patrons who are in prison or who have disabilities, and of course they were also interested in, the social and environmental aspects of librarianship and our annual meeting. So I was able to get a task force set up. And one of our first things we did as a task force was to develop a project to offset travel emissions for people traveling to and from the annual conference. I did some research on the topic, and I learned that almost 90% of at least all carbon or atmospheric pollution was created through the traveling to and from the conference, and not from like staying at the hotels or being at the conference center, et cetera. So I was pretty aghast to learn that for each seat on a plane for a 1,000-mile trip each way would create about a pound of CO2 per seat. So at our annual conference, we generally have about 1,800 attendees. So our 1,800 attendees created extra 1,800 tons of carbon dioxide, which would be equal to something that you might be able to think about as burning about 203,000 gallons of gas. So it's kind of a negative input into our environment, something that we educated people about and allowed them to have an opportunity to do something about. So we created this voluntary solar heater project that offered people to make individual donations and for tax, which would be tax deductible. It would offer social and environmental benefits, and also created awareness of our environmental impact. So you might be wondering, how does a solar heater work? On my slide, you see a woman here standing in front of her solar heater. She's a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe in South Dakota, and the solar heater collects the heat from the sun during the day, of course, and transfers it into the house with a very low wattage fan. And it seems like a fairly simple device. It's not too expensive to create, but our offset project purchased these solar heaters for people on the reservation. The solar heater project was a project of a nonprofit called Trees, Water, and People, and they actually built the solar heaters, trained people, etc. So the many variable social benefits of this project were that more than 60% of residents on the Oglala Sioux Indian Reservation were below the poverty line, and for many families, 70% of their income went to home heating. And if you can picture a winter on the plains of South Dakota, perhaps you haven't been, but I've been up in that area before, it can get very windy, and of course it can get very cold. So by providing solar heaters to families who are in need, they were able to save a lot of money on heating their homes, and that money could be used for other things such as buying food and clothing, other necessities. In addition to the benefits for the families, you can see people in the photo here. They were involved in building the solar heaters, so they got trained to build them, and they had new skills that they could use to take with them to other reservations or other parts of the country. So that project has grown quite a bit since we started funding that about 5 or 6 years ago. Some of the environmental benefits from the solar heater project were most of the electricity used to heat homes, and most all homes are heated by electricity, came from burning of coal. So by replacing coal burning heat with solar generated heat, you reduce the amount of emissions from the coal plant to heat that home. So in addition to reducing greenhouse gases, it also provided cleaner air for the area. The coal plant didn't have to work as hard, obviously. So we thought this was a win-win thing. We worked hard to find a project that had these good social benefits as well as environmental benefits. I'm a little slow in changing the slides, so I apologize. It's a small arrow to click on. After that project started, shortly after in 2014, our task force was involved in helping one of the chapters of AALL. AALL is broken into chapters representing different parts of the country. There's one in New England, there's one in Southern California, there's also one in Southwest United States. And I assisted the folks from the SWALL, the Southwest Association of Law Librarians, in helping to make their annual meeting more sustainable. This meeting was held in Boulder, Colorado, conveniently, which is where I work, and it's also, if you know much about Boulder, it's kind of like Portland, Oregon. It's known for its sustainability efforts and leadership nationwide. We have some unique programs going on here. So, I was thinking of in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well, maybe in Boulder, we should think of doing what the Boulderites do. And it was the board of SWALL was very receptive to the idea of trying to do a very sustainable conference. And some of the things we did I've outlined here. The main thing was we did a travel offset program. We used the same solar heater project, but instead of asking for voluntary contributions, we built in a fee into the registration fee to cover the cost for all attendees. So we did calculations, it's not perfect, but calculations to figure out how far people were traveling and what their footprint was. And it came out to just under $4 per attendee to offset their complete travel footprint. So that was pretty cool. And then we also did, I think my wife was involved, who's I think attending this program too, and this idea of doing a classic or ugly bag contest. You might know that most conferences offer you a bag and they put some swag and maybe meeting information in there. Instead of developing and producing new bags, we asked people to bring a bag that they already had that might be historic or especially ugly. I shouldn't display this orange one being in Colorado because I guess I realized recently that's kind of close to the Broncos colors. But anyhow, I'm not a fan of orange. So we gave out prizes to people who had a really old or classic bag or to some of the people that had ugly bags. And in addition, a lot of us locally gathered up extra bags that we had so that they were on hand for people when they registered. If they didn't remember to bring their own bag or didn't have one, we were glad to let them reuse one that we didn't need anymore. And a couple of the other things we did which were interesting is we encouraged people to bring water bottles with them to save on use of cups at the conference. And if you've been to any high altitude areas, you can quickly learn that it doesn't take long to get dehydrated, so you need to drink a lot of water, and rather than going through a lot of cups, most people were able to bring water bottles with them to keep refueling. And another thing that we did, we set up, I don't think many people participated in, maybe we didn't market it as well, is we had a bike share program for people at the conference. The conference was most people stayed 2 or 3 days, and I was able to negotiate with the local bike share, B-Cycle nonprofit, to get very economical passes for folks attending the conference. So they could, for a small fee, check out and check in bikes all around town to explore the city, use a bike paths, etc. There are more than 30 bicycle stations in town, and there's a very big network of safe bike paths separate from the highway, and also lanes set up for bikes too. So it was an opportunity for people to in April, when the conference was held, to cruise around town on a shared bike that you can check out and check in as you move around town. In 2015, a milestone for us, we were able to formulate and get passed a resolution on sustainability in law libraries. This was a great achievement, I think, and it passed with an 86% vote of all the members of AALL. And the reason for this is sometimes, you can come up with a lot of good ideas on projects, whatever, but you need some kind of founding statement or resolution or something that you can base your actions on. And by getting a very strong support through the membership vote, we are sending a clear signal to AALL that we are interested in sustainability, and we'd like to, work together to achieve different measures as we move forward. And I took out some extracts from the resolution. If you want to read it yourself, you can just Google it, AALL resolution on sustainability. It's available for free without being a member of AALL. And you can read the whole thing. But here are a few sections that I took from the resolution to show you here about stating responsibility for creating, healthy environments, and also for encouraging AALL and its membership to be proactive in applying sustainability thinking in areas of their facilities, their operations, policies, programming such as the annual meeting and other partnerships. So this was a great thing that happened, and it led to the next slide. The establishment of a standing committee on environmental sustainability. I mentioned earlier that we set up a task force, and the task force was meant to be not as permanent as a standing committee. So the social responsibilities special interest section was glad to set up a more permanent standing committee that just formed in this past year. And a couple of goals that we set for our committee are below. If you want to learn more about the committee, you could actually do a Google search for the social responsibilities section of AALL, and then you don't have to be a member to access our little web page that has these goals and other things. But the main two goals included developing and communicating best practices, either through education like webinars or through developing guides that we could post on our website. And then the other goal was related to providing direct assistance and guidance, that we have a goal to have on our committee people with expertise who could actually maybe talk to someone on a phone and walk them through some of the challenges or barriers they might have that are preventing them from getting sustainability done. And some of these examples would be like setting up a travel offset project for their chapter meeting, or a guide might be something like giving guidance on how to reduce paper use and what type of paper you might want to print to be socially and environmentally responsible. So we plan on publishing quite a few guides or tips outlining, the benefits and the considerations that people might have, as well as providing direct assistance, kind of like some general consultation, via the phone or email for people who get stuck. So why should libraries be involved in things like this? I think personally, librarians are good communicators, have great research skills, and good project managers. So if anyone's suited to lead the way in sustainability, I think librarians are for their communities or even for the library. And given the recent election and the president-elect's statements related to the environment, which I've listed a few here, like climate change is a hoax, and there were plans or statements saying that they were interested in scrapping the Clean Power Plan, ending contributions to a United Nations fund to help the poorest people cope with climate change, opening up public lands to fossil fuel drilling. That kind of gives me little shivers here in Colorado. Or dismantling the EPA. These are all promises made. So I don't think we can expect a whole lot to be happening on the federal, national level for a while. I think a lot can be done at the local level if individuals, corporations, and organizations step it up. I think we can actually create a lot without having to rely on the federal government to provide all the incentives that make things progress happen a little faster. So hopefully there's some time for questions. I've listed my email and phone number here. If you want to talk to me or email to me personally, I'm glad to answer any of your questions that don't get answered today.
And this is Tracy Urbick. I'm monitoring the chat. I haven't seen a whole lot of questions come through, but if anybody has any, feel free to do that. We'll go off some of the questions that we received in comments from our registration form. So, David, I wonder if we have a couple of people who are interested in some of the legal aspects of sustainability. Does your organization have any type of resource that people could look at to learn a little bit more about that?
I'm assuming they're talking about maybe resources that outline the law that relates to, climate change or sustainability. If that's, in fact, I don't actually have, I don't have any particular titles in mind, and I apologize for that. But there are several. If you went to any law library catalog, you could do some searches, and there have been a lot of books written about different strategies that are being used to try to use a law to make sustainability happen. Obviously, the Endangered Species Act is one. If we are committed to preventing species from going extinct, we need to slow down climate change, as scientists have suggested. So, that's a law. There's a Clean Air Act. There are a lot of regulations that have been in place to boost fuel efficiency in vehicles. That will definitely help with the environment, with the air, and with the atmosphere. So if that person wants to, maybe I didn't understand the question. If they want to contact me individually, I'll be glad to send them a list of some of the titles, the legal titles, or maybe answer the question better if I'm misunderstanding it.
Sure. Well, maybe if you do compile a list, we can get that up onto the SustainRT website for everybody to look at. We have another question too. Can you talk a little bit more about how you researched to find the solar heater offset project? We have some people who are interested in selecting projects to support in similar ways and are interested in maybe a little more detail about that.
Yeah, good question. I can't remember exactly how I stumbled upon the solar heater project. It may have been, I knew of places that did offsets, such as there's one that's called Native Energy, and there's also TerraPass, whatever. I think I contacted representatives from companies that I found on the internet or I'd heard about or read about that sell retail carbon projects. But there's also a registry. I don't have the exact name of it, but if you did a offset or a carbon credit and certified projects, a search, and the word registry, you could find and I do have that in my notes. I could send that to the list too. It actually lists projects all over the country that are third-party verified or certified, and it provides short descriptions and who to contact with those projects. So it's a really neat index of what's currently available. Or you could, like I said, contact one of the other organizations who actually sell offsets, and they're probably aware of projects that they're working with, or other folks who are involved in other projects that might meet the criteria that you're looking for.
Great. I think we probably have time for one more question that we come. Maybe you could talk. You get some great ideas about sustainability at the conference with the water bottles and the bike share. Was that something that you guys are going to do again? How was it received by the membership? Any new ideas that came out of the experience or lessons learned?
We've had other chapters ask about our offset project, and we did get some good feedback from the membership at the meetings, but we don't have any. One of our plans for the new committee is to do more outreach with the chapter leaders, and I've already done some, but we're going to follow up. That's kind of local within AALL, so there has been interest, and we're kind of, since we're a new committee, we haven't really reached the threshold of awareness of who we are and what we can do yet, but I think that'll happen very soon.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing some really great and honestly impactful work already, so I think we can all probably offer you a congratulations on doing that.
Well, thank you.
David, thank you so much for speaking. I'm going to hand this over to Madeline Charney to close us out for the last couple of minutes, and we will be going ahead and sending a link to the webinar, the recorded webinar after that's up, as well as a very short survey. So, Madeline?
Yes, hi, David. Thank you so much for connecting with SustainRT. Real quick now, we have our own virtual meeting coming up on January 4th in the spirit of staying on the ground. And our midwinter meeting in person will happen on the Saturday at 1 o'clock. And during midwinter, Mary Beth Block and Rebecca Smith-Aldrich, who are board members, are going to do a presentation around the future of libraries. Exciting news at Annual, we have Bill McKibben coming to be one of the main keynote speakers, and that's a collaboration between various other ALA roundtables and associations. Finally, we are looking for people to do really quick and informal video clips about sustainability projects that they're doing. We're hoping that this comes from our members, so if you haven't joined us yet, it's only $10 to add to your membership at any time. We appreciate the support, and this video is going to be shown to a very large conference of librarians in Portugal that want to see what SustainRT members are up to. Also, we're always inviting people to be guest bloggers. Finally, we have nominations open for our next coordinator and also a member at large. So you have until January 26th. And my contact's at the bottom. I'm the immediate past coordinator, and I'd be happy to talk with you about any of the above. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you. Jeannie, do you want to close it out for us?
Oh, well, I'll just say we're really excited about the attendance today and all of you who joined us, and hope you join us for future webinars. We typically offer these on a sort of seasonal basis, so there should be one in Madeline, maybe you can remind me, sort of mid to late spring?
Yes, we think of them as seasonal, so March would be around the next time.
Right. So if you have ideas of other webinar topics you'd like to see us organize, please let us know. The members of this group are Beth, Tracy, Madeline, and myself. And so just let us know, because we think this is a great example of a very exciting webinar. We'd like to see more like this. Thank you so much, David. It was great.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, David.
Thank you. I just sent a message, but someone could get to me afterwards. But this is a great programs coming up. I guess I don't know if we're audio for everyone now, or if we're just in our small group.
I think we're still on for everybody.
Okay. I won't ask.
But we can say goodbye and continue our conversation with you, David, if you would like for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually we do a sort of debrief after we're
Okay,
done.
great. Thank you.